Hamas released a propaganda video of 20-year-old American-Israeli hostage Idan Alexander, one of 101 hostages still held in captivity in Gaza for over a year. The video comes as pressure mounts on leaders in Israel, the United States, and Egypt to secure their release in a potential hostage exchange deal with Hamas. The 3.5-minute long video is not dated, though Alexander states in it that he has been held for over 420 days, meaning that if indeed true, it will have been filmed sometime this past week. The Hamas propaganda video showed American-Israeli citizen Idan Alexander sitting against a wall in a dark space, visibly pale and emotional. Speaking directly to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Idan pleaded for his release.
Dear President Trump, my name is Idan Alexander. I am an American-Israeli citizen currently being held captive in the Gaza Strip. As an American, I've always believed in the power of the United States, and now I'm sending my message. Use your influence and the full power of the United States to negotiate for our freedom. Every day here feels like an eternity.
Alexander was born in Tel Aviv, grew up in New Jersey, and joined Golani as a lone soldier after graduating high school in 2022. He was taken captive by Hamas on October 7th while in service. Idan's mother, Yael Alexander, described the agony of seeing her son in the video.
I'm shaking, I cannot believe I didn't saw Idan for 421 days, and suddenly to see him alive and speaking, and when he cried, I just want to hold him, you know. It was very, very, very tough to see. I'm hoping that he's still gonna stay brave and strong, and I want him to know that we are doing everything that we can to bring him home.
Yael also revealed that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called her family after the video was released, offering assurances that efforts to bring Idan and all the others home are ongoing. Meanwhile, in Cairo, Hamas leaders arrived for ceasefire talks with Egyptian officials, raising hopes for a potential breakthrough. Washington has also renewed efforts to mediate a deal, with Hamas reportedly showing increased flexibility in negotiations and potentially agreeing to allow the IDF to maintain a temporary presence in the Philadelphia corridor near the Egyptian border. Much of the population was forced to shelter this morning when a red alert was triggered by a single ballistic missile fired by the Houthis in Yemen, targeting central Israel. The missile was shot down by a Patriot missile outside Israeli airspace. The alert was a reminder to those in central Israel that while there is a ceasefire in place with Hezbollah in the north and Hamas rarely being able to fire at the south, Israel's enemies in the multi-front war are continuing to target the Israeli population centers. The ceasefire in Lebanon is generally being maintained amid minor violations, providing the first rocket-free weekend in the north in nearly 14 months. The IDF remains in South Lebanon and is closely monitoring and responding to violations while continuing to destroy Hezbollah assets on the ground. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
This ceasefire in Lebanon is generally being maintained amid minor violations. A vehicle carrying missiles was attacked from the air, and Hezbollah gunmen were struck by the IDF when violations were detected. Terrorists in Sidon were struck after being found with rocket launchers. Israel announced that it will respond forcefully to all violations, and there have been no reports of cross-border attacks. The IDF continues sending firm messages to Lebanese civilians to remain north of the Litani River and not attempt to return to their homes until given the okay by Israel. IDF forces remain deployed in South Lebanon, closely monitoring and responding to ceasefire violations. The commander of the 91st Division, Shai Klaffer, is coordinating the operation during the 60-day ceasefire and the IDF withdrawal, as required by the U.S. brokered agreement. IDF ground forces are continuing searches for weapons and found some hidden in a mosque. The IDF captured Hezbollah fighters and removed them from the area. Meanwhile, the U.S. military CENTCOM announced that Major General Jasper Jeffers arrived in Beirut in recent days to oversee the implementation and monitoring mechanism of the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire. Jeffers will work alongside Middle East envoy Amos Hochstein. The mechanism is led by the U.S. and will include the Lebanese and Israeli armies, UN peacekeepers, and France. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem indicated that the badly damaged terror group will abide by the ceasefire.
هذا الاتفاق هو تحت سقف السيادة اللبنانية. وافقنا عليه والمقاومة قوية في الميدان. ورؤوسنا مرفوعة بحقنا في الدفاع.
With the arrival of the ceasefire, the IDF announced data on Hezbollah losses in the 14 months of fighting. Over 12,500 targets were hit. Targets included 1,600 command centers and 1,000 weapons depots. 25,000 weapons were seized. Over 100 special operations conducted. Between 2,500 and 3,500 Hezbollah operatives were killed and thousands more wounded. 13 members of Hezbollah's top leadership were eliminated, including its leader, Hassan Nasrallah. The army captured some 12,000 explosive devices and drones, 13,000 rocket launchers, anti-tank and anti-aircraft missile systems.
The Prime Minister's office held a special briefing meeting with security heads over the weekend to discuss the new internal fighting in Syria. Led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the rebels overran dozens of towns and are reportedly approaching the city of Homs. More from ILTV's Ariella Lahiani.
Syrian rebels opposed to President Assad launched a surprise attack through government-held towns, including Aleppo, the country's second-largest city. They are pressing their offensive against the Iranian and Russian-backed Assad and last held Aleppo during the ongoing, somewhat dormant civil war in 2016. Israel is concerned about potential spillover as well as the fear that strategic Syrian weapons could fall into the wrong hands. According to British-based observers, hundreds of fighters on both sides were killed in recent days of fighting between the rebels and Syrian government forces. During the civil war, the Syrian regime had the support of thousands of Hezbollah fighters and the Russian Air Force. Now Assad's allies are weakened and otherwise occupied. Moscow is focused on Ukraine, and Hezbollah has been pummeled by Israel during more than 13 months of warfare. Israel has been bombing border crossings between Syria and Lebanon, preventing Hezbollah rearming. Those crossings are also blocked from Hezbollah sending aid to Syria.
And joining us now is Miri Eisen, Senior Fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism. Miri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Miri, I'd like to begin with the ceasefire with Lebanon. Despite minor violations, we've just experienced the first rocket-free weekend from the Northern Front in nearly 14 months. In your view, how sustainable is this ceasefire?
It's sustainable because Hezbollah wants the ceasefire. I feel that we've actually been underplaying how much Hezbollah has been hit, how much they needed the ceasefire, how much they wanted to stop. They do not have an interest now in reopening the front. Right now, they're not just licking their wounds. They need to keep whatever force they still have left, and that's why it is sustainable, because they have an interest in it.
Now, how crucial do you think is the continued presence of the IDF in South Lebanon at the moment in order to maintain this ceasefire?
So the presence itself of the Israeli Defense Forces, mainly infantry troops in southern Lebanon, is very near the Israeli border. It's 5-6 kilometers. It isn't deep into Lebanon. And in that area, as being showed, is where they exposed the really incomprehensible arsenals that the Radwan force and the other Hezbollah elite forces down south had ready to do an October 7th attack. We uncovered that. The question now is not about our being down there. It's about the capability to stop a new flow of weapons into the south of Lebanon. And in that sense, I think right now, at the moment, it's something very sustainable. I don't think that we need long-term the IDF troops to stop the flow of weapons. That's something that needs to be done in a different way.
Now, what challenges does the IDF face in balancing monitoring violations on the one hand and avoiding escalation on the other hand?
Again, I think that because Hezbollah has such an interest in not at this stage, reopening the front that they opened on October 8th, 2023, a year and 2 months ago. I would say that because of that, it's easier to keep a balance. In this case, one of the things that the IDF has to look at is about the issue of Israeli different aerial platforms flying over Lebanon, something that we did freely over the last year and 2 months. And as part of the ceasefire agreement, it was agreed that Israel would not do so. And in this case, I think that's the only one where it slightly may inhibit some of what Israel does. But in today's capabilities, it doesn't make such a big difference. And as such, we should be able to sustain it and keep it. The biggest challenge is right now to make sure that that flow of weapons that the Iranians want to send back into Hezbollah does not get into Lebanon and in Lebanon down to the south.
Do you, Miri, believe in all honesty that residents of the north can safely return home at this time?
So as I've put to myself and to my dear friends who live up north, I think that they can return home. I also think, Sivan, that they need to realize, and all of us need to, that they live in a border area. They don't live in the center of Israel. It has its absolute amazing area. I love it up north. And having said that, I can't say that there won't be anything. I do think that Hezbollah is heavily degraded, especially in the area right next to the border, that for Hezbollah now to do anything against a civilian area in Israel would bring the wrath, not just of the IDF, but of the world against them, and they don't want to start that. So yes, it's about mutual deterrence, but I breathe in deep, and I do think that they can go home.
That's encouraging to hear. Now, with the resurgence of rebel activity in Syria, how might this fighting impact Israel's border security? Should Israel be worried about weapons spillovers or other kind of threats?
So for the 10 years before, when I was constantly talking about the war in Syria, that kind of dwindled out in 2020, almost 4 years ago, but it went on for almost a decade. I was always worried about the aspect that my enemy's enemy inside Syria is not Israel's friend, meaning right now, the rebels against Bashar Assad are extreme jihadists. We understand what that means. They come out of Al-Qaeda affiliated groups. They come out of Islamic State affiliated groups. Some of them are slightly less extreme, but it isn't that the enemy of my enemy does us good. Having said that, what the onslaught of these different rebel groups, because there's more than one group that's fighting right now, what it has shown very clearly is the weakness of Hezbollah, is the weakness of what we call the resistance arena. That sense, both the Iranian-backed Al-Quds forces, the different Shiite forces, because that's what the rebels have been attacking up north, in addition to Bashar al-Assad's forces. Up there, you had Hezbollah fighters that were the ones that were training and helping. They're not there. And look at how much those rebels managed to do in the 2 days. I wouldn't say goodbye to Bashar al-Assad yet, but this is not bad news for us.
Miri Eisen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
On the very first weekend, without incoming rocket fire in the north since the start of the war, some displaced residents ventured home to inspect damages and consider moving home. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
Removed to temporary housing in further south, some northern border residents were home for the first time in more than a year, and they were not yet certain about when and if they will permanently return.
אחרי שלא היינו שנה במטולה, אני לא הייתי שנה מהפסקת אש שהיה של עסקת החטופים.
אני שמח שיש, כי זה ממש היה הפסקה, זה היה too much.
Some residents used the opportunity to pack their belongings and face a dilemma about whether to stay.
יש לי פה קרטונים ארוזים, שכבר התחלנו לארוז. והמחשבה הזאת תמיד מעדדת, כי אין לנו ביטחון. ואני לא חושב שזה מה שנכון, במיוחד עכשיו. אבל זה עדיין בדילמה.
Still, other northerners say they are back home and are hoping for the best.
Since the onset of the war against Hamas, anti-Semitism has skyrocketed across the globe, leading to a record number of people making aliyah. And making that process easier is Belong. Let's take a look.
Moving to Israel has always been a dream for many Jews around the world, a place rich with heritage, unity, and purpose. But in the wake of recent conflict, that dream might feel more uncertain. And yet, there's a private Zionist impact community inspiring people to come, to stay, and to build a future here together. Belong is here to help you make Israel your home. They are a company passionate about supporting each person's journey, no matter where you are in the process. With Belong, making Aliyah, moving to Israel, isn't just paperwork and logistics. Aliyah is an invitation to become part of a resilient community that values mutual responsibility and connection. Through personal guidance and practical support, Belong makes it easier to navigate every step, empowering people to immerse themselves in Israeli life. Belong believes that in these challenging times, there is no better place to stand together, to contribute, and to shape the future than in Israel. They offer opportunities for people to volunteer in recovery and rebuilding efforts, helping to create a free and flourishing Israel while bringing healing where it's needed most. Whether you're looking to study, work, invest, or simply experience life in Israel, Belong provides on-the-ground experts and trusted resources to make the transition as smooth as possible. From understanding local culture to securing housing and finding community, Belong is there every step of the way. Israel is more than just a country, it's a family, a place where your actions matter. Belong shows people not just what Israel can offer them, but also what they can offer Israel. Together, we can make a difference. It's about more than just relocation. It's about finding your place and your purpose in the very heart of Israel. Making Aliyah today means becoming part of something extraordinary, shaping a shared future with passion, purpose, and resilience. For those ready to embark on this journey, Belong is here to welcome you home.
And joining us now in the studio are Eylon Gilad, CEO of Belong, and Jessica Scalisi and Ola from the United States, who is now working with Belong as a content strategist. Thank you both for joining us.
Hi.
Eylon, I'd like to start with you. What inspired you to lead Belong, and how does this organization support new immigrants beyond just the logistics?
So I was actually lucky to get invited to join Belong by the founder, Gilad Ramot, who is a great Zionist. I've been spending many years in the high-tech industry, traveling the world and working with foreign companies. And now I get the opportunity to work for my community, for my country, and help shape Israel for the coming generations.
And how does it differ from any other organizations helping Olim?
So Belong is a private company. Mm-hmm. And as a private company, we know that we can do things that the government organizations just can't. We saw how the private sector can, or how the government sector can benefit from the private sector when we get involved in things that they do. Belong is committed to a superb service and making sure that the Olim that comes to Israel get the service in the level that they expect to get it. And we are working hard to make sure that every Ole that gets here gets treated in a way that he won't be disappointed.
And Jessica, what motivated you to make Aliyah, and how did Belong help out in that process?
I came to Israel to connect to a part of my heritage that I didn't know much about. And I always say that coming to Israel is the easy part, but really finding your community and integrating is the challenge. And I found my community with Belong. Whenever I'm 5 years into my Aliyah journey, and there are still challenges, and I'm always supported. I always have someone to help me and to kind of bring me along the journey that never really ends.
That's beautiful. I wish you good luck. Eylon, after the current conflicts, the war between Israel and Hamas in the north with Hezbollah, how has Belong adapted its strategy in order to, kind of address the challenges brought on by the current climate, the challenging times we live in?
So we started before the war, and the events after October 7th just reinforced the need for the service that we're providing. We saw how vital is the connection between the diaspora and Israel, and how keen are the people in the diaspora to be a part, to take part and shape Israel, to help us reestablish and rebuild what we have in Israel. So we just got inspired, and we felt that our strategy is on the spot, right where it needs to be. It means nothing changes from the strategy, maybe the urgency to do things faster, because the wave of immigration which are coming now to Israel is something that we expect that will grow now that the war is now coming down, and people want to be part. They want to take part in reestablishing Israel and making sure that we have a good place to be in.
And Jessica, just following up on that, what advice would you give people considering their aliyah, especially now during these challenging times?
First of all, come. I think that as Jewish people around the world, we will always face challenges, but why not come to Israel and face them together? I think that moving to a new country is always going to be difficult, but Belong is here to guide you every step of the way, you know, from immigration to integration. And there's no better place to be than here.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Eilon, what role do you see the new immigrants coming in, taking and playing in Israel's future, especially during these uncertain moments?
So I truly believe that Israel is the place, or the best place in the world to be in, especially for Jews. And what we have here in Israel is very unique. Israel became the startup nation not just by coincidence. It's a part of the culture, of the can-do attitude that is built in us, and it enables each and every one of us to find its mission, to find its purpose, to be a part of a bigger scheme of things, and to feel that he can really impact. So every Aliyah wave really strengthened Israel. So we saw how every Aliyah wave during the history just made Israel stronger and better. This diversity of people coming from around the world is really what's so unique and makes us so strong. So I believe that coming here, finding the purpose, being a part of the mission is something that will fulfill every Oleh that comes here and will give him a life that he can flourish within.
Every wave of Aliyah does indeed strengthen Israel. I do agree with that, and Israel does need the strength. So thank you very much to the both of you, Eilon and Jessica.
Thank you.
British author and political commentator Douglas Murray, known for his defense of Israel and critiques of radical ideologies, is visiting Israel this week. And last night, Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey landed in Israel as well. The pair toured sites affected by the October 7th Hamas attacks and were in Kibbutz Kfar Aza today. Murray's visit underscores his ongoing commitment to confronting anti-Semitism and defending democratic values. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mostly clear skies are expected tonight around the country, and temperatures should reach lows of around 9 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny skies are expected alongside cold temperatures set to reach highs of only 20 degrees Celsius or 69 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you so much for watching.